Hi everybody, it's Ruby. I am back for week 2 of our online learning partnership between your school, Rogers Elementary, and Chicago Arts Partnerships in Education, otherwise known as CAPE. And today we are going to do a few quick warm-up exercises. The first one is just a breathing exercise that is meant to help you kind of focus in and put the rest of the day aside, get a little bit calm so that you can open the floodgates for your creativity. And then the second exercise is a writing and drawing warm-up that will actually have you creating both a poem and then illustrating that poem in under 10 minutes. So let's get started. Try to find a comfortable seated position. And basically this is just a neck roll, a very gentle neck roll, where you are breathing in rhythm with your movements. So I will show you. You're going to take your head first to your right side. You don't want to go back because that can damage your neck. So once you get to your shoulder and your ear is sort of about to talk to your shoulder, that's where you want to stop. And then you're going to go the other way. And while you're doing this, you're going to take a deep breath in as you go from right to left, and then you're going to breathe out as you go from left to right. So let's do it together. Ready? And you can do that as many times as you need to feel centered. And another one that I like to do, and this is good if the neck roll isn't working for you or if you just want to add on another exercise, is just staying in place, closing your eyes, and taking a really deep breath in through your nose. And you actually want to count to 4 while you breathe in, and then you pause and you breathe out through your mouth, counting to 4. So I will demonstrate if you want to follow along. And you're going to close your eyes, breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold it, and out through the mouth, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I hope that you are feeling more calm, a little bit more in the creative zone, ready to attack this writing and drawing exercise. So let's go over to the desk. So in order to do this activity, you need a Sharpie or a regular ballpoint pen works. Better to not use a pencil because you might be tempted to erase. And you need a piece of paper or a couple pieces of paper, and any kind of paper works. And the first goal is to free write for 2 minutes. And while you're free writing, you want to just write continuously in a stream of consciousness style. So whatever comes into your mind, that's what you're going to put on the paper. You're trying not to think too hard. You don't need to be concerned with whether or not it makes sense. It's okay if it just comes out like one word that you're repeating over and over again. Maybe you can't think of anything, you get stuck. Instead of being like, well, I'm stuck, I'm going to just put my pen down and think, you're actually going to keep going. And it might mean that you just write nonsense words, or maybe the same word over and over again. So maybe you're writing food, 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 food until your mind frees up and you start to write more. So really, the number one goal of this first part of the activity is to write without thinking and without putting your pen down. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to set my phone timer for 2 minutes. I'm not going to give myself a theme. I'm just going to write whatever comes into my mind. So I am going to go. wanted to keep going, but I am stopping myself for the purposes of this demonstration. If you're anything like me, once you get started, you don't want to stop. And the time limit is really just so that you can kind of like give yourself a digestible, easy goal. But if you hear that timer and you're like, I am really in the zone, I want to keep going, don't hesitate, just turn it off and keep going until you like can't write anymore. And actually it does kind of hurt your wrists, so I'm going to shake out my hand. And now the next part of this activity is just reading through what you wrote one time. And you can read it out loud or you can read it silently, whatever works for you. So you're reading it through without judgment. And I'm going to read mine out loud. Okay, here goes. Writing whatever comes to mind. Wow, so hard not to think. A gray day, sounds of neighbor kid playing basketball. Sounds of cold birds today chirping, cold birds with a siren, ambulance, fire truck symphony. Oh, I can hear a squawk, a little robin on the basketball hoop cheering. Silent day, quiet day, why are we home? Why is everything? And that's where I left off. And now the next piece of this is to read through again, but this time you're underlining or circling, however you want to do it, anything that sounds a little bit interesting or strange or funny or absurd or perplexing. So whatever stands out to you. And this can be a whole phrase or it can be a word. Now you can use the same utensil for this, but you can also use a highlighter or a different color ink to make it a little bit easier. So that was really just based on my instinct. That was what jumped out to me. And now I'm going to do a second pass where I actually get a new piece of paper and I rewrite everything that I underlined. I'm going to write it more in a list form because this is the part where it kind of becomes, or not kind of, it becomes a poem. Mind. Wow. A gray day. Sounds of neighbor kid playing. Basketball. Sounds. Okay. So now I have a poem. And the next piece of this is to actually illustrate the poem using the same free drawing technique that we did last week, except this time, instead of just picking a theme at random, your theme is the poem that you wrote. So I am going to take a bigger piece of paper, but notebook paper would work just fine for this too, really whatever you have around. And I am going to just start drawing to the feeling of this poem. So I'm going to read it one more time to myself. Mind, wow, a gray day, sounds of neighbor kid playing basketball, cold birds with a siren, ambulance, fire truck symphony, little robin on the basketball hoop cheering, silent day, quiet day. Now remember, illustration does not have to be completely clear or overt or totally descriptive. I could take this in a very specific direction where I actually am trying to draw the exact images that I'm describing, or I could use decoration or textures that actually have some kind of maybe visual or sensory relationship to this text, but might not actually be like a literal robin sitting on a basketball hoop. So as I go into this next part, which is 2 minutes of free drawing, I'm going to let myself be open to whatever comes out. Maybe it'll be really literal, maybe it'll be a little bit more abstract, maybe a little bit of both. I don't know. So I'm going to set my timer again, this time for 2 minutes, once again, and go for it. So that's my signal. Time to stop drawing. But again, if you were really in the zone, you could keep going. And so this has given me some illustrative imagery to work with. And my next step is actually looking at what I've created and figuring out what I might want to take from this or interpret to illustrate my poem. And if you wanted to, you could just leave the exercise at this. You actually would already have an illustrated poem just by combining the images that you drew and the text. So we'll get more into examples of all of the different ways that illustrated poetry can look, but one way that it can look is separate. So sometimes you'll see, like in any kind of even kids picture book, there'll be the text on one side of the page and then there'll be the image on the other. But sometimes the image gets more crossed or integrated with the text. So if I wanted to do that, I could actually use my highlighter or other different colored pen and actually pick out what I wanted and put that onto a whole new page where I'm actually rewriting the poem and then drawing around it. Or I could do what I'm going to do right now, which is writing the poem onto my drawing page. And I'm going to try to write it in a sort of visually interesting way where I'm going to make the text hug the image and kind of weave in and out of the image. So let's see. And maybe it doesn't matter if I kind of keep my lines in the same structure that they are. Maybe it's okay if I start playing with things and letting the words do what they need to do in relationship to the image. So for example, I don't think I'm going to put of right there. I think I'm going to put it in this cloud. And maybe as I write my poem, I realize that there are ways to extend or finish pieces of the drawing to make it more integrated with the new text. Maybe I want to add some punctuation so that my reader can better follow my poem. And maybe what I thought was my second to last line becomes my title. There are really no rules once you get started. I hope you have fun with this, and I will be posting these directions along with the video so that you can get a refresher when you're ready to do this activity.